David, you want to go first?
Sure. I was in the Army Infantry, enlisted, and I served with the 1st Infantry Division, which we're the only Army division to have their own movie, which is pretty impressive, mind you. I want to, no, all right. I want to first and foremost, I want to thank the American Veterans Center for one thing. You know, we get an opportunity to see. Just, I think this is the greatest event that brings together so many generations of individuals that you'll never meet in your walk of life. You'll never have the opportunity unless you live next to General Hal Moore or live next to any of the individuals who were from the Doolittle Raiders or any of these other American patriots. You'll never have the opportunity to see them and to hear their stories unless you go to an event like this. And my generation, our generation, even though I'm in my 30s, I'm going to count you as me. All right, our generation is we are great only because of the pedigree that we were born into, and you can't be great unless you know what the standard for greatness is. And the veterans who came before us, who fought in unpopular wars, who fought in wars that most people don't even know about. You know, the Korean War. You ask a young kid today what MASH was based on, they'll tell you Vietnam. They don't even know what's going on with what happened over there or some of the pivotal battles. The tactics and techniques and procedures that were used in Vietnam, the counterinsurgency that is being implemented right now by David Petraeus, that was started in Vietnam. When you read books by Colonel David Hackworth and you start to see them out G-ing the G, out guerrilla the guerrilla, that's what we're doing essentially in Iraq today. We're bringing the war to, we're marginalizing the insurgent by taking the war to the people and understanding what the war is about. They can't get it from the media. They can't get it from Al Jazeera or Al Arabia. Why are Americans there? For the longest time, that we were looked at as the oppressors, as the occupiers. And now for the first time, we are being seen as the conduit for peace and security. And that's a very important step. And that's what's marginalizing these Mahdi army militants. That's what's marginalizing. Al-Qaeda in Iraq has nowhere to go. I was in Ramadi in 2006 as a reporter, and that was a horrible mistake, by the way. Don't ever do that. For all you kids listening, you're safer in the military than you are in the media pool. Unbelievable. I've been around privates and 18-year-old enlisted men, for 6 years. I've never heard more griping and complaining than the people from the media. It was unbelievable. But anyway, here or there, we saw people in Ramadi that were essentially, they would tie up suspected Al-Qaeda members and just basically say, enough's enough. Every time these people come to our town, violence ensues, and we want enough violence. And the reason why they want enough is because when they wrestled and tried to fight in 2003 against the Marines, they got beat. And when they fought in 2004, they got beat. And there's no future in battling the United States military, man to man, person to person. So they realize that we have to marginalize those extremists, and that's what we're doing today.
Got a hard act to follow off. He said pretty much everything. I served in Iraq in 2003. I was there during the initial invasion. My unit was one of the first units to cross from Kuwait into Iraq. I believe it was around March 21st, 2003, when we actually crossed the LOD, the line of departure. And I was 21 years old when I went over there into Iraq. And just as David and Peter said, things are looking better than they were back then. The things are going to continue to look better based off the strategies that we implement from our higher echelon command. And I fought the same guys that David has fought, that Peter has fought, and just like they both have said, people are tired in Iraq of the violence that these people are creating, because it's counterproductive for them to think that as long as these terrorists stay within their cities, within their walls, within what town limits or whatever, the only thing that happens is more fighting, more death, and the people are tired of it. And now we're starting to see these people actually rise up against these extremists, because they're starting to see the bigger picture, that there is a future in Iraq. but the future is not with terrorism. And now that all these plans have been implemented, and as he said, death counts are down for civilians and for military personnel, I think that the Iraqi people are starting to see the silver lining that's really out there. They're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and because of that, they're starting to help us out and actually point these people out now. And that's pretty much what's been going on in Iraq, and it's because of guys like this to my left and my right, and because of the men before us, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, and every other war that's been fought before, in between there, that the small wars, all the wars you never hear about, clandestine operations, these are the people that we look up to and want to strive to be like. We got to live up to the guys from World War II, the guys that were on Iwo Jima, the guys that were on Guadalcanal, the guys that were on Utah Beach. And we want to live up to that expectation. We want to exceed that expectation. The same thing with the Vietnam vets, the guys that were in Dak To, the guys that were in Da Nang. I mean, the guys everywhere. And because we had such great role models before us, we're trying to, and we are performing at the same level that they are, just in a different country, in a different era. So without these guys before us, none of us would be here right now, be able to tell you about what I did or what David did or what Peter did, without being able to look to the past and say, we did it because these guys did it before us. And those are the guys that really give us the strength to really push forward and lay our lives down if need be for America, just like they did.
Well, at this point, I'm going to ask the first question of David, and then we'll open it up for questions from the audience as well. But, all of us share, I think another thing we share here is concern about the domestic debate. And the way the war is portrayed in the media here, and what soldiers and a role they can play here domestically. And David wouldn't tell you this, but he co-founded an organization called Vets for Freedom. It exists to be a communications platform for veterans to tell their stories, to tell the other side of the story about what's happening in Iraq and Afghanistan. And David, if I could ask you, what's your perception now of the way the debate is shaping, and what motivated you to step out and start that organization that I should, as a disclaimer, say that I'm now the executive director of, but only because, but I'm always fascinated by what triggers a guy to stand up and say, enough is enough, I'm going to start an organization. I didn't start it. I walked into an organization that existed, and I think, what triggers you to say enough is enough, and I'm going to start an organization that communicates what's going on over there.
I came home in 2005, and I think I haven't even talked to Marco about this, but I mean, you didn't have electricity, you didn't have running water, and then you get cable news, and you're just blown away by not only that the stinking Yankees blew 3 games of the World's in the ALCS, that just killed me, but because I left, I thought for sure this was another World's Championship, but I was blown away by so many things, but this congressman from Pennsylvania's 12th district, Congressman John Murtha, started, just what I thought was really shameful and ill-advised rhetoric that was totally unnecessary, especially someone who had been such an outspoken supporter of not only the invasion of Iraq but of the Marines in general. I mean, this is a guy who was all about the Corps, and to see him, just make what I thought was really just a caucus of misinformation. And it dawned on me that, it comes to a certain point where I thought that maybe we could just debate the war, that we could just tell our stories. You hear a guy like Marco Martinez, and he steps up and he says, hey, I'm the first Navy Cross winner in the entire Iraq War. I'm the first Hispanic American to receive a Navy Cross since 1971. That should be credibility on its own. That should be a platform where you can stand up and say, well, what is your credibility, Mr. Congressman? Well, my credibility is a Bronze Star with Valor. So then Marco Martinez's point of view should be 3 times as important as yours. That doesn't make any sense. You can't get into those arguments.